there's a global shortage coming that no amount of money can fix overnight. And almost nobody is talking about it. This isn't about gold. It's not silver either. In fact, while millions of investors are distracted, chasing shiny metals and headline trends, something far more important is quietly tightening behind the scenes. This is the one metal that's powering artificial intelligence, electric vehicles, data centers, and the entire next generation of technology, and demand is about to explode in a way the world is completely unprepared for. In fact, one of the biggest companies on the planet just made a move that should make you stop and pay attention. They went out and secured direct access to supply. That's not something companies do unless they see a serious problem coming. And here's the part that should really catch your attention. Experts are now saying that over the next couple of decades, humanity will need to mine as much of this metal as we have in all of recorded history combined. Let that sink in for a second. Everything we've ever mined. We'll need to repeat it again, just to keep up. So the real question is, if this shortage is so obvious, why is almost no one talking about it? And, more importantly, where is the smart money moving right now before the crowd catches on? Because while most people are still focused on what already moved, gold having its run, silver going through its hype cycle, the real opportunity is often where nobody is looking yet. And that's exactly where things start to get interesting. Over the past couple of years, I've talked about trends before they went mainstream. I was early on gold when people weren't paying attention. I highlighted silver before the big moves started happening. And now, the same pattern is starting to form again, but this time, it's even bigger, because it's tied directly to AI global infrastructure, and a massive shift in how the world operates. And buried right in the middle of this trend, I came across a tiny, under-the-radar company that's positioning itself in a way that could benefit massively if this plays out the way many expect. We're talking about a company operating in one of the most resource-rich regions in the United States, sitting on projects that haven't even been fully explored using modern techniques yet. And somehow, it's still flying under the radar with a valuation that most investors would completely overlook. But before we get into that, you need to understand the bigger picture, because once you see how supply, demand, and global policy are all colliding at the same time, you'll start to realize why this isn't just another commodity story. This could be one of the most important shifts happening in the market right now. There's a global shortage building right now that no amount of money can fix overnight, and almost nobody is paying attention. This isn't about gold, and it's not about silver either. While millions of investors are distracted chasing what's already trending, something far more critical is quietly becoming the backbone of the next technological revolution. This is the metal that powers artificial intelligence, electric vehicles, data centers, and the infrastructure of the future. And here's what should really get your attention. Major corporations are already making aggressive moves to secure supply before it's too late, because they know what's coming. Experts are now warning that over the next 2 decades, the world will need to mine as much of this metal as it has in all of human history combined. Think about that for a second. That's not growth. That's an explosion in demand. So the real question becomes, if this opportunity is so massive, why isn't everyone talking about it yet? And more importantly, who is positioning early before the rest of the market catches on? Now, once you start digging into this trend, you begin to notice something interesting. The biggest opportunities are rarely found in the companies everyone is already talking about. Instead, they're often hidden in smaller, under-the-radar players that are quietly building positions in the right place at the right time. This brings us to a junior exploration company that most investors have never even heard of. A company focused on discovering critical minerals that are essential for modern technology, things like copper, cobalt, nickel, and other key resources that power everything from batteries to advanced electronics. What makes this company interesting isn't just what they're looking for, but where they're looking. They've strategically positioned themselves in one of the most resource-rich mining regions in the United States. On top of that, they're backed by a team with real experience in discovering and developing large-scale mineral projects. But here's where things get even more interesting. Despite all of this, the company is still valued at a level that suggests the market hasn't fully recognized its potential yet. Now, you might be wondering why focus on this metal instead of gold or silver. After all, those are the metals everyone knows, the ones that dominate headlines and attract attention during uncertain times. And that's exactly the point. By the time everyone is talking about something, a lot of the opportunity has already passed. We've seen this play out over and over again. Gold had its run, silver had its moment, with massive price swings that brought in retail investors chasing momentum. But while all of that was happening, something else was quietly building in the background. This metal hasn't seen the same level of hype yet, but the fundamentals behind it are arguably much stronger. Unlike gold and silver, which are often driven by sentiment, this metal is driven by real, unavoidable demand. It's required in massive quantities for infrastructure, technology, and energy systems. And the key difference: there are no real substitutes. That's what makes this situation so unique and potentially so powerful. To really understand what's happening here, you need to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. We are not just seeing random price movements in commodities. We are likely in the early stages of a full-blown metal supercycle. Historically, these cycles don't happen often, but when they do, they reshape entire industries and create massive opportunities for early investors. What's different this time is the driving force behind it. It's not just economic growth or inflation, it's a complete transformation in how the world uses energy and technology. From electric vehicles to renewable energy systems to AI-driven infrastructure, everything requires massive amounts of raw materials. And so far, the supply side hasn't kept up. In fact, many mining projects take years, sometimes decades, to fully develop. That creates a bottleneck, and when demand surges into a constrained supply environment, prices don't just rise, they accelerate. That's why some analysts believe we're still in the early innings of this trend, especially for metals that haven't yet captured mainstream attention. Now let's take a closer look at what this company actually owns, because this is where the story starts to become more tangible. One of their key assets is a project located in a historically rich mining district, an area that has produced valuable minerals for over a century. This particular property spans hundreds of acres and sits in a region known for its deposits of copper, nickel, and other critical metals. But here's what makes it especially interesting. Despite its history, large portions of this property have never been explored using modern drilling techniques. That means there could be significant untapped potential beneath the surface that previous generations simply didn't have the technology to uncover. Early exploration has already indicated the presence of multiple valuable elements, suggesting a broader mineral footprint than initially expected. And when you combine historical data with modern exploration methods, that's often where new discoveries are made. It's not just about what's already known, it's about what hasn't been discovered yet. The second major project adds another layer to the story, and this is where things begin to accelerate. This property is focused on copper and gold mineralization, along with exposure to other valuable elements. Initial sampling and testing have already produced encouraging results, including strong copper grades that suggest the presence of a potentially significant system. But what really stands out is how early this project still is. Like the first property, it hasn't been fully explored using advanced modern techniques. That creates a situation where each new phase of exploration has the potential to unlock additional value. Recent work has identified multiple zones within the project, each showing signs of mineralization. And when you start seeing consistent results across different zones, it increases the probability that you're looking at something larger than initially expected. This is the stage where projects begin to transition from speculative ideas into more defined opportunities, especially if further testing continues to confirm early findings. At this point, it's important to step back and understand why these metals are so critical in the first place. These aren't just industrial materials, they are the foundation of modern technology. Everything from smartphones to electric vehicles to AI systems relies on a complex network of components that require precise mineral inputs. Copper, in particular, plays a central role because of its ability to conduct electricity efficiently. Without it, much of today's technology simply wouldn't function. And as industries continue to evolve, the demand for these materials only increases. Renewable energy systems require extensive wiring and infrastructure. Data centers need massive amounts of power and connectivity. Even defense and aerospace technologies depend on high-performance materials that can withstand extreme conditions. When you start connecting all of these dots, it becomes clear that this isn't a short-term trend, it's a long-term structural shift. And that's what makes early positioning in this space so potentially valuable. Now add another layer to this story: government policy. In recent years, we've seen massive investments aimed at rebuilding domestic supply chains, particularly in advanced technology and manufacturing. One of the biggest examples is the CHIPS and Science Act, which allocates hundreds of billions of dollars towards semiconductor production and related industries. But here's a part that often gets overlooked. None of these initiatives can succeed without a stable supply of critical minerals. You can't build advanced chips, electric vehicles, or defense systems without the raw materials that go into them. And that creates a powerful tailwind for companies operating in regions that can supply these resources. When governments and industries align around a common need, it often accelerates development and investment in that sector. So instead of relying on foreign sources, there's a growing push to secure domestic supply, and that's exactly where strategically positioned companies begin to stand out. This brings us to the most important part of the story: what's happening right now. Because in early stage companies like this, timing can make all the difference. Recently, the company completed new exploration work that provided additional insight into the potential size and structure of one of its key zones. Early observations suggest that mineralization may extend further than originally thought, which could significantly increase the overall value of the project. On top of that, they've taken steps toward initiating a drilling program, which is often one of the biggest catalysts for exploration companies. Drilling provides the data needed to confirm what's actually underground, and when results come in, they can quickly change how the market views a project. This is the phase where uncertainty starts to turn into measurable potential. And for investors watching closely, these moments often represent key inflection points in the life cycle of a company. So when you put everything together, the rising demand, the supply constraints, the macro trends, and the early stage positioning, you start to see a much bigger picture forming. This isn't just about one company or one project. It's about a shift that's happening across the entire global economy. The transition toward advanced technology and sustainable energy isn't slowing down, it's accelerating. And that means the demand for critical materials will continue to grow. The only question is, who positions themselves early enough to benefit from it? Because by the time something becomes obvious, the biggest gains are often already gone. Every major trend follows the same pattern: early uncertainty, gradual recognition, and then widespread adoption. Right now, we appear to be somewhere in that early phase. So the real question is, are you paying attention before the crowd arrives, or after everything has already moved? Let me know what you think. Oh, when you step back and really look at everything we've covered, this isn't just another stock or another short-term trade idea. It's part of a much bigger shift that's already underway. The world is moving toward AI, electrification, and massive infrastructure expansion, and none of that happens without the raw materials that power it all. That's the part most people overlook. They focus on the headlines, the hype, and what's already trending, but the real opportunities are usually hidden a layer deeper before the crowd fully connects the dots. And that's exactly where we are right now. Because if history has taught us anything, it's that every major cycle rewards the people who position early, not the ones who chase after the move has already happened. Gold had its moment. Silver had its run, and now the question is whether this next phase, driven by real demand, real supply constraints, and global policy shifts, starts to gain that same level of attention. If it does, the companies that are already in place today could look very different in the future. But of course, nothing is guaranteed. And that's why doing your own research is always the most important step. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think this is still here,